I want you to get together.
I want to take a crack at that question, Paul, because this is wild speculation by me because I think that's pretty much all we've got at this point. If we believe that, like, obviously based on just having the earliest pictures we have, we know something went down around early 1800s, maybe late 1700s, and I think Vitali's got a working theory about 1776, which is the founding of America and the founding of the Illuminati. Could be something there. But it is, if Satan did get let loose, I mean, if you even think about like examples of like Satan in the book of Job, he was allowed to kill Job's whole family. Is it possible that when Satan got let out, it's like, again, how is he going to deceive all the nations? Well, maybe he did something to wreck lots of things in perhaps some of the saints at the end of the 1,000 years got caught up at some point to heaven. I'm not sure how that worked, but maybe literally the devil came to kill because he had to obviously remove witnesses from this place. And then I said, so what makes sense too is the fact that you have certain places that are obviously still have some people in it, but then you have the weird stuff about the orphan trains and the Cabbage Patch Kids and all this weird stuff going on about these fairs. And it does seem interesting that you have this effort to repopulate the place by taking orphans all around. Like I said, you think about the population of the world is, based on what they tell us, was very low in the 1800s. I think it was only like 1 billion or something like that, if that's true. Still like way smaller than now. So the amounts of orphans they're talking about all around the world, you like obviously you amplify that to the number we're at now, and you can't even imagine how many people we're talking about. So the orphans are going all around, and then you have right at the same time. I said it's interesting. I looked this up. Was in 1900 in America there was 1,000 insane asylums, or no, there was 1,000 orphanages. There's 0 today. There's 0 orphan. There was 1,000 of them. And obviously you think our population's way bigger now, so there should be maybe some. And then there was 150,000 people locked up in insane asylums in 1900. When if you think about 250,000 orphans in America, you have 150,000 people in insane asylums. Yeah, to me, it's like something obviously massive happened, and it could have been when Satan was let loose. And then you have the remnants of those people, was like the people who wouldn't shut up about it got locked up, their kids got taken away. And then these kids got shipped around all around, obviously America, and probably all around the world to repopulate these places. It feels like, I mean, just based on the pictures, yeah, you see aristocrats. I mean, everybody's dressed so well. Everybody looks so good walking around. So these were like the people who said, well, we're not working in the factories. Let's go put those kids in there. And again, these kids are reprogrammed. Then you get right into like the Rockefeller school system that we've got. And anybody who talked about that stuff, obviously they locked away or offed. So, I mean, I think that it could be, there must have been some kind of obviously real shaking of this place. Like you could say, even as you were talking about the soil liquefaction, maybe when the devil was like literally physically let out, I mean, that's what happened.
All right, you remember that article I sent you concerning the saints and the insane asylums? So this is the Greensboro Patriot article, and it's from 1868, I believe. And there's a very interesting passage in this article, and this is what it says. It's highlighted in yellow right there. So I'm going to send it to you, so maybe you could post it up here. But it says, lunatics had their golden age before laws were made, when they wandered forth at large and were revered as saints or partaking of something holy or divine. But with laws and civilizations, their iron age began. What does that even mean?
Wait, read that again?
Read that again, yeah.
Right, so this article or newspaper is from the 1800s, the 1860s. Lunatics had their golden age before laws were made, when they wandered forth at large and were revered as saints, or partaking of something holy or divine. But with laws and civilization, their iron age began. So the lunatics they're referring to in this article is the insane asylum people. I don't know why they specifically said this in the article, but yeah, it's very weird. It's at the top of the title. It says the treatment of lunatics, and it just like goes into their treatment, I guess. And then it says that this weird passage right here.
Isn't it funny? Even I saw somebody was breaking down English words, and they were just talking about the fact that, like, lunatic, obviously it's some kind of related to the moon. It's kind of it's a strange word to call crazy people, but that's always like that expression where you're like, it must be a full moon, people are acting crazy. Like, where does that even where does that come from? Isn't it interesting? I've heard people compare that, like, the sun and the moon are supposed to represent, the sun was, God put these signs in it. The sun is to represent God's son. It's not literally God's son. It represents him. And the church is represented by the moon.
Yeah.
So it's like, maybe that's where lunatic came from.
Maybe. I mean, what you said there's interesting, because wasn't Sigmund Freud around the same era? And he was,
late 18th.
I believe he was also, again, accusing people of going insane due to religious fervor. That was like the number one reason for putting people in insane asylums, religious insanery. Yeah. And if you think about the timing, if these were people in these insane asylums, for example, in 1860, are still then being described as people who lived during a golden age, they claim, where everything was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Are these people, are they being locked up in insane asylums for long periods of time because they don't die easily because they lived through the millennial reign? Are they living a really, really, really long time and are perhaps really hard to kill? So what do? You just lock them away until they finally just end, whatever that is, because Christ isn't there anymore. It's the little season. It must wear off eventually, right? So it makes sense. Maybe that's what they did. They just got rid of them, and their children obviously became the orphans, perhaps, in this scenario. And these kids were doing some pretty crazy things. They were like chimney sweeps, working in factories, and like, you have to wonder what kind of child. My child cannot do something like that. You know what I mean? These kids must have been super children in some way, very hardy, like indestructible. And perhaps this is what we're seeing here. And obviously, since then, it's dissipated and watered down, and it's just not the same anymore. But I'm just trying to think, because if that was in 1860 and it was 1776, let's say, we've got 100 years of life there, of people who are still supposedly supposed to be living during this time, and it all kind of lines up to the narrative. Only religious nuts belong in the insane asylum. These crazy people,
Well, you could still even have some remnant of the people, and they're still telling their kids about it, and they're still growing up, and they're still saying, no, this is not right. Like, what they're trying to tell people, it's not true. And so so like, obviously you could have a generation past that, but then the next generation, it's like the kids of the parents who told them about all the things before, they're not going to say anything because they see what happens to people who do. So people out of fear, obviously, to get locked up and go to shock therapy and all that stuff. Like, is it worth it to fight the narrative?
Probably not. I mean, it only takes about 4 generations to completely erase history anyway. Rewrite the school books, probably less. Yeah, probably maybe 2 or 3, to be honest.
Well, I saw a video. It was funny right before, like, kind of all the election stuff, funny business over, like, in the 2020s. Everyone was sharing this video of, I think this guy, his name's Yuri something, and he was in the KGB, and he was like talking about, like, the threat of communism. And I think he was actually saying it only takes 15 years to program a generation.
20, yeah, Yuri Bezmenov.
Oh yeah, because he's basically just saying long enough to put him through school. So like one generation, because he had these different phases of how to basically completely co-opt the thing. And obviously, it's like the guy was, I don't think he necessarily was a prophet, but obviously he's saying these things in the 80s in America, and you're like looking around, and you're like, because he was kind of already saying back then it was too late. And he was clearly right. Crazy.
Because you have to just make sure the kids don't tell the parents what they learn in school. The parents would never bother to check, and then the kids will probably go on believing a certain narrative, and then they have kids and tell their kids that narrative, believing it's true, and it's done. And the parents will grow old. Yeah, it's that easy. It's terrifying. I mean, one interesting about that time period as well, the Oddfellows, which is an offshoot of Freemasonry. Have you ever looked at their seal, the seal of the Oddfellows from the original? Let me see if I can't just get it up here and read it to you quickly.
I was looking up when we did our podcast, I was looking up their different logos, and there was a few of them that were like skulls and
2 women.
Yeah, it's strange stuff. Obviously, the
With
three rings.
a serpent around the globe.
Yeah. I mean, if I can, can I share the screen with you? I think I can share the screen with you guys here. Here we go. Can you guys see this?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if we zoom in on this here, and you actually read what it says around here, we command you to visit the sick, relieve the distressed, bury the dead, and educate the orphan.
Oh gosh.
So these guys are the top hat people with canes you see in these photos. These were the ones who took control of the operation. Here's a serpent wrapped around a globe in the center. The new education system, I suppose. I'm not sure who the two women are. Maybe these represent the age it happened. Maybe it was Gemini or something. I don't know. Just spitball in there. The Sovereign Grand Lodge of the Independent Order of the Oddfellows, 1834. But these guys are in control of, educating the orphans, visit the sick, relieve the distressed, to bury the dead. The distressed of what? What just happened? That where people are so distressed and need relief, How many dead people are there that they're in control of burying them? Like,
probably
what's going on?
Probably lots of them.
Yeah, and just on a side note, by the way, just to shill here, the three rings is their logo.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a member of this society that invented the circus, the Three Ring Circus. So I'm just going to say that just to throw it in there quickly. But in fact, this is funny. This is related to Tartary. I only just discovered this recently. But P.T. Barnum is the one who was a member of this around the same time. He was a member of the Oddfellows. He's the one who created the Three Ring Circus, a real charlatan of the time. You should see his house. This is what he lived in. Look at this thing.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
He's one of the founders, right? He found himself a really nice Moorish architecture revival style, Eastern Orthodox something or other for himself there, didn't he? That's ridiculous, isn't it?
That looks like the Taj Mahal.
Yeah, and look, there's this little outhouse to the right here as well, going for him as well while he's at it, just something for a bit of fun. And who knows what this is, this little menagerie down here. But this is his house, and it's kind of... Are these his other stately homes as well? These are the things he had going for himself? This is the main one?
I guess he wasn't working for peanuts, as they say at the circus.
Absolutely not, no. But you look at the members of the Oddfellows.
You really would. So people would say that we're reaching sometimes, and you look at that. I can't even believe that logo. Literally, it's a snake wrapped around the globe.
Oh yeah,
it's you would think we were making that up.
I mean, you look at these guys. These are the guys we keep seeing in front of buildings, right? With the top hats and everything. But in God we trust. Trust which God? With the all-seeing eye up there. But if you look at the members, and honestly, this list is extensive. They are the most powerful. There's Barnum here, sat down here as well. There's Albert Pike, the writer of Morals and Dogma, just here as well. Mm-hmm. While we're at it,
totally satanic.
He was a member of both. But here's a list of all the members. Prime Minister of the UK there. We've got the 33rd Governor of Illinois. We've got Red Skelton, a famous clown, funnily enough. They've got the Kentucky Giant there, John. And it's a mixture of actors and presidents and prime ministers, which is an odd mix. There's Charlie Chaplin. We've got a lawman. We've got a Chief Justice there. There's Albert Pike. We've got a civil engineer. We've got a Justice of the U.S. Senate, past U.S. Senator, a Governor of Idaho. We have the King Olav V of Norway. These memberships are really odd. King George, I believe, was a member of England as well. Another U.S. Senator, the 29th U.S. President, Warren Harding, was a member. Franklin Roosevelt, the 32nd U.S. President, was a member. There's Winston Churchill. He was also a member. It's ridiculous. You look at this list, they were the most powerful, influential people of any time period, are members of this particular fraternity. There's P.T. Barnum, the guy I was telling you about. And then randomly thrown in, there are footballers and actors and comedians and other things as well. So bizarre, so strange. I think this is the guy who created it, Thomas Wildley here. So maybe we need to
So
look
what,
into
like,
this
so
guy.
where, I mean, where does that even name that Oddfellows? Because it doesn't sound like a very flattering name. It's just, I mean, yeah, for lack of a better term, it's odd to label the group that, and it's because it's just strange. Why do they have a explanation for that?
No, they never explain themselves. They never
I
explain
guess
themselves.
it's
No.
probably a secret.
Yeah.
Probably
Yeah,
don't tell you.
maybe there's some gematria to ODD or something like that. I don't know. But I think my working theory is if you're a member of the Oddfellows, you're all actors on the world stage. So that's why it's always the kings and the prime ministers and the presidents who are members of these societies. Their job is to go out and play the role of the leader of a particular place or country.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then when they die, they'll probably go on to take another role somewhere. And we know about crisis actors. We've all been in this game for long enough to know they play these type of games with us, with bloodline families, and use the repeat characters on different news stations for different events and things like this, allegedly, you know. But I think it's odd that the Oddfellows are surrounding themselves with actors as well as prime ministers in these lodges. They're all probably actors. That's right.
You know, it's
you know.
what they say over where we live is that Washington D.C. is what is it? It's Hollywood for ugly people.
Yeah,
I mean that's what everyone's always said. You know, like it actually makes. I mean, it makes sense in the sense that you realize that even if you don't believe to that level, you realize that like senators and big people in government, a lot of them have these staffs and they're just glad handing and they're going out there selling it. It's like they're the public face of it, but obviously they're not doing all the legislating.
Mm-hmm.
They ain't writing the bills. They're going out there to smile and kiss babies. Unfortunately, that phrase is really creepy now. And do all the things to sell it to the public, to be the face of it. And obviously that is in itself acting, because you know that they're all just full of it.
Yeah, the script writers are probably the people in these lodges I just showed you. The lodge itself makes the scripts. They go out and play the role. And I find it interesting that it was that particular lodge that was given control over the orphans and the rebuilding attempt in that time period. It seems like they had a serious hand in all of it. But it's the shrouded in they're a secret society. They're not easy to find much else out about them. But you'll find loads of posters of like people like saying thanks to the Oddfellows for the brand new orphanages that they've just built, and it just shows like a poster with these drawings of like 5 red bricked ornate buildings, and it's kind of they've all been given a certain name or something, and it's kind of like the Oddfellows have just built these wonderful orphanages for us. You know,
you cracked me up the other day when you're saying, I'm not sure if you came up with this when you were talking about Freemasonry, like, hey, there's some Freemasonry. Let's go found it.
Yeah, I made a funny meme for it actually.
I mean, did you come up with that? Because I was like, wow, like because I was hearing people like the only thing that the Freemasons actually built was a bunch of lies, like because they didn't build those buildings.
Yeah,
but they take credit for it though, and it's Freemasonry. You almost I thought like,
yeah, I mean,
that's
I don't know
so obvious. It sounds perfect.
I don't know if I can share this with you guys easily. I think people on my screen might be able to see it now, but I made a funny meme relating to this, which maybe we can spread and get out there and start using as like a thing. How do you do it? Can I just share screen? Let's just do entire
Is it the free real estate one?
Yeah, it's the free real estate one. Let's see if I minimize this. Just let me know. Can you see this one?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Yeah, I think we can everyone want to screenshot this and spread it around.
Yeah.
I'm not bothered about credit or anything, but let's just get it out there. I think it'd be funny. But that's pretty much what it was, I think. I think it was the Millennial Kingdom ended and his enemies who lived through it were like finally, and they just basically moved into all the empty buildings and started working with the master in these secret societies, which is Lucifer, isn't it? You know,
yeah,
the Luciferian doctrine, which is what Albert Pike has talked at to no end about getting us on board with, getting the people on board with their religion. You know, that's what they're aiming for, isn't it? So,
I want you to get together